Ready? 3, 2, 1. Okay, good evening. We're going to be talking about the parsha a little bit early. It's only Monday night, but it's never too late. And actually, maybe it is a little bit too late because we're going to discuss something that we had in this previous week's reading in Shemoth, and that is clarifying what exactly Moshe Rabbeinu's mother's intentions were by putting him supposedly in the Nile. Now, let's say you grew up as kids. I know most people believe this. Their idea is that Jochebed took a flotation device, a basket that she had made to be able to float, waterproof basket, put her child in it, and put him on the river, and it drifted away and ended up somehow at Pharaoh's daughter's hands, and that's how he was saved. And that does not make so much sense because here you have a woman who was sacrificing a lot for this special child and trying to save them. Most women have the motherly instinct. They would save a child no matter what. And the fact is that it suddenly came to this where she felt that she couldn't succeed in hiding this child whom she had hidden now for 3 months, to then just say, okay, so put him up, put him in the river and hope for the best. That's not what was going on here. And the Das Mikra actually points this one out. You can see already there's actually quite a lot of, that's what the verses say. She did not put him to go down the river. And now I'll give you the relevant verses that actually point this one out. It says that she could not hide him any longer. Well, first it says that he was good. That's half a verse. It says she conceived and had a child. She saw that he was good, and she hid him for 3 months. The sages say that Moses was passed away on the 7th of Adar. That is a reverse calculation from the chronology given at the beginning of the book of Joshua, which means that 3 months later would be Isru Chag Shavuot. Moses was placed in the basket the day after the holiday for which he is most well known, when he received the Torah on Mount Sinai. Shot in being a good baby, Mathilda Bain, she saw that he was good. I don't know about you, but when parents discuss their experience with newborns, whether or not a child is good or not at that point is, do they cry a lot and let you get some sleep? This child was good in the sense that he did not cry so much. And that's also why you have it that it says, Hine na'ar boche. If you look at the way the trup is there, when Pharaoh's daughter discovered him, it says, Vi na'ar boche, not vihine na'ar boche. It's a child, but he's crying. The surprise is that he's crying. Why? Because until this point, whenever you have the word hine in the Torah, hine is telling you something that had not been expected by the person who saw this. Behold, this is a surprise. This child is crying. Right? She was surprised that was remarkable, because until now he was not a crybaby, and that was what allowed the mother to hide him for so long. Don't forget, the Pharaoh in the previous verse had decreed that his entire people have to help him toss all the Jewish, that's the Targum's translation of Hebrew, babies into the Nile. And it says that she took, when she could not hide him any longer, she took this basket of reeds and she coated it with pitch, and then she put the child in there. It says Watasim basuf al sfat hayor, and she put, it doesn't say what, she put in the suf. The suf is the reeds, the ones that are growing at the edge of the river. It doesn't say she put him in the river, it says in the suf. And Das Mikra points out over here that specifically that was to prevent it from getting carried away. There's a lot of tall reeds there. They grow in the swampy areas. She didn't want to put the baby in a place where he could just be carried away by the water. She put him in a place that's wet and marsh-like, and in a way that it wouldn't get blown away. Why? Or taken away by the current of the Nile. Why did she do this? Because she wanted to hide him. Women go down to the water on a regular basis. Before they had plumbing in these societies, they relied on the river for everything. They relied on it for drinking water, and they also went down there to bathe and to do the laundry. And that is what housewives had to do for the greater part of the day. The fact that women, or younger women, that's specifically older female children, so they were being trained by their mothers how to be housewives also. So it was not unusual. This is the equivalent of, let's say, hiding the baby in the laundry room or down in the latrines. And for those of you who know about situations that existed, unfortunately, in the 20th century in Soviet Russia and in Nazi-occupied Europe, women got very creative about hiding their children. I know of one specific story. I had a neighbor of blessed memory who I was told he was born in Buchenwald towards the end of the war. And the women were very creative about hiding him and taking care of him such that he survived. He might be the only child who has that distinction. There's a scene in Schindler's List, which is factual. It wasn't the same children, but the children who hid in the latrines in order to survive when the Germans came to take away all the children who were in Plaszow camp. So they hid there. Women get very creative, and it saves people's lives. And that's exactly what Jochebed did. She created a waterproof box in which to hide her quiet, according to the sages, premature but healthy and special child. And it says afterwards, "Vatetatzav ahoto merachok, l'dea ma yeoselo." Vatetatzav is an interesting verb. It's a strange form of the past tense of she stood there at attention. In modern Hebrew, it would say hityatzava. That's the simple Hebrew form. Vatetatzav is a future form that is shortened and then given the vav ha'ipuch. And Onkelos makes it clear he uses the same word, the same verb in translation as other places where it says hityatzvut. And there's also words that are similar. The nun is missing in this form. That's why there's a dot in the tzadi, the second letter of the shoresh, to compensate for the missing nun. And it says, for example, the garrison of the Philistines, where they were stationed, where they were attacked by Jonathan at the beginning of the war, Saul's war of independence against the Philistines, that's called the Matzav Plishtim. And in modern Hebrew, Matzav is it means a situation. And in modern Hebrew, they also say the place where the troops are stationed is called a Mutzav. Okay? Mutzav Arza means that the ladder that Jacob saw was stuck in place. This means that Miriam had a lookout spot where she was able to stay still. If the basket was actually meant to even be slightly in motion, go down very slowly downstream, she would have to be running alongside the river to keep track of her child, not take a position there. So Vatetatzav indicates that Miriam was there. Maimonides says, Miriam took care of Moshe Rabbeinu. She raised him, so to speak. What we have here is that the mother has placed the child in a very creative hiding spot, and when she cannot be with her child, she actually has her older sister. You can imagine, let's say, we already hear about Miriam that she was basically already prophesizing at this point. Harun was only 3 years older than Moshe Rabbeinu. He could not have been helpful at this point. And it's also important that we've pointed out previously that it's very clear from the sources that Miriam was older than both Moshe and Aaron, Moses and Aaron. And she was there looking after him. Okay? She couldn't be right next to him all the time. That would be a giveaway. But she was close enough that she always had a lookout. And it says that Pharaoh's daughter came to Moses. Vatered bath paro l'chot zayor. She went down to bathe at the river. Why did she choose there? Well, she's the Pharaoh's daughter. She could do whatever she wants. She just happened to have been there, and she discovered the teva in the suf. So she went and see what's going on here. She discovered Moses' hiding spot, and she opened it up. And it was very fortunate that it says that she took pity on him. She pitied him, even though she knew quite well what her father wanted to do. And she realized right away, it says this, Vatomer mi'aldeha ivrim zeh. She knew that this is one of the Hebrew babies. And that's why the sister, who was obviously seeing this, was able to respond, Vatomer achoto bat paro, it says, and she said to her, what's a little slave girl doing there? I don't know. At least if I was Pharaoh's daughter, I wouldn't know. Maybe I would be onto something a little bit suspicious. But she was able to intervene already because she was right there. Perhaps she was even frightened when she saw this royal entourage getting really close, and perhaps maybe she was even praying for the child's safety. And you can imagine her relief when she saw that this princess opened up the basket and discovered the child and was actually taking pity on him, and that she wanted to actually go along with this plan to adopt him and also make sure that he was fed well and everything from one of the Hebrew uh, wet nurses. And of course, she was able to find her mother and told her what happened. You've been discovered, but they don't want to kill your baby. They want you actually to come and nurse her, and they're even going to pay you to nurse your baby out in the open. So this was a amazing turn of events for Jochebed, obviously. But the point is that, unlike, let's say, you would see in the movies, uh, I grew up with the Ten Commandments, the live action one. Years later, I saw bits and pieces of the Steven Spielberg animated one, which they even made in Hebrew with real Jewish actors and Hebrew songs in there, and in other things that they show kids, even native Israeli cartoons and other things like that. It basically seems to be implied or even explicit that Moshe Rabbeinu was put in uh, a basket that was actually meant to travel downstream, and that is very far from the actual truth. And I hope that everybody, this has been enlightening. Please share with your friends. This is something that, if anybody's actually learning what this is all about, if anybody's an active study, is engaged in active study of the parsha, should be aware of this. That it is very clear that Moshe Rabbeinu's mother did not intend to send him down the river. That would have actually been a pretty easy way to have killed him. Be well.